I'm going to introduce you to timeline actions, which are a great way of starting and stopping the playback of your movie so that you can wait for user interactions to advance the story you're trying to tell. They can also be used to start and stop sounds and many other useful. There's many other useful things that timeline actions can do just to help you better organize your hype movie. So we're going to add timeline actions in 3 scenes. Let's start with the help scene. I'm just going to click on that in the scene list, and um, let's just have a quick look at this. By default, hype will get to the end of a scene when it plays it and stop. It won't jump to the next scene. So let's just have a quick look at this scene. I'm going to Command Option Return to view it in Safari. And the scene stops there. What we want to do instead is for the playhead to go directly onto the next scene, which is called Blam. So it's very easy to do this. I'm going to move the playhead all the way to the end of the scene. So this is at 3 seconds and 22 frames. And on your timeline, look for timeline actions, and you want to click this button. This is Add Keyframe, adding a keyframe to the timeline actions. And the action that we want to add here at this keyframe is jump to scene, and I'm going to choose the scene by name, Blam. And the transition in this case will be instant. So if I preview this scene now, you'll see what happens. And it moves straight on to the next scene. Okay, let's move on to the Blam scene. What I want to do at the end of this one is to have a timeline action which will loop it back to the choices scene. So in this movie, this hype project, when you click on Call for Help, it will jump to the help scene, and the help scene is moves on to the Blam scene, and the Blam scene where things sort of don't end up so well for this cop who tries to come and help you. The end of that scene will loop back to the choices scene so that you can make another choice. A little bit of a game scenario there. So back into the Blam scene, we just will take the playhead to the end of the scene. That's at 4 seconds. I'm going to add another timeline action, and I'm going to jump to scene. I'm going to select choice, and this time I'm going to make the transition crossfade just for a bit of variety. Okay, we're going to move on to another scene, which is the door scene. So just to give you an idea, if you're in the choice scene, I'll just preview this so you can see what happens. So I'm in the choice scene. There's these various buttons. If I click try the door, it will jump to this scene, which just plays through in a linear way. There is a button here that has some different states on it, but it'll get to the end of this scene and then it won't go anywhere. Let's just go back to hype and try and fix up the interaction in this scene. So we go to the door scene. What I want to happen is that the playhead will pause here until the user clicks this button, which is called Scene 5 Handle Button 1. I'll just show you a couple of things that are already set up in this scene. When you hover over the handle button, there's no hover state, but there is a pressed state. So when you press the button, the handle goes down. Another thing that happens when you press the button, if I just go to my Actions Inspector, you'll see that on mouse down, that's when you press the button, it plays a sound called door down. When you let go of the mouse button, on mouse up, the action is play sound door up. So it will make this, the door will make this kind of clicking sound as you desperately try to get it open to get away from the gangsters. So what I want to do is, instead of having the playhead play straight through, I'm going to add a timeline action here at 1 second after this try the handle label has faded in. So add a timeline action, and this action is going to be pause timeline, main timeline. So just leave it as main timeline. I'm now going to add an action to this button when I press it or when I click it, and that action is going to be continue timeline, main timeline. So the timeline action pauses the progression of the scene, and clicking the button makes the scene continue to progress. It makes the playhead release from this point and play on. Once again, let's just zoom out on the timeline so we can see what happens. When I get to the end of the scene, let's say at 10 seconds, I want to move on to the next scene, which is dead. So let's add another timeline action, and I'm going to jump to scene, and it's going to be dead, instant. I could choose the default action, which is jump to scene, next scene, but I'm just making sure that my project is as flexible and easy to edit as possible, so I'm going to actually select dead as my scene. Okay, let's go back to the choice scene and click on the button that will bring us to the door scene and see how the rest of this interaction plays out. So clicking on choice, and I'm going to preview my scene by going Command Option Return and open it in Safari. Oops, wrong scene. Let's just refresh that, and let's try the door. You see the playhead has paused. That's our timeline in action. And I click the button, and it plays these sounds as well as begins. And as I desperately try to get in the door, it moves on to the dead scene. So that's timeline actions, and now we'll move on to adding some sounds to your Hype project.